Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to keep waiting. We welcome you again to another episode of GPL Capital's webinar on CEO Talks in association with Nippon India Mutual Fund. Our topic for today's episode is pharma sector safe bet as an investment theme. Our speakers for today are Mr. Sailesh Rajbhan and Mr. Vivek Gupta. Pleasure to have you, sir. Our speaker, Mr. Sailesh Rajbhan, has over 4 years of experience in equity research fund in mutual management in India. He has been associated with Nippon India Mutual Fund since 2003. Presently, he manages equity assets of around rupees 20,000 crores across various strategies like the large cap, and the thematic funds. He holds a degree in BA Finance and is a certified chartered financial analyst. Thank you for giving us your valuable time, sir. Our second speaker, Mr. Vivek Gupta, CMD of GPL Capital, has over 25 years of experience in the field of financial services. Handing it over to Mr. Sailesh, who will now start with the market, after which we will have an interactive session and Q&A. As you all know, we are live on the Facebook right now. Please put in your questions in the comments. Try our best to accommodate those. You all can put in your questions in the chat room here. Handing it to Sailesh.
Yeah, thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to you all. Thanks for joining in today. I will take you through the critical aspects of the pharma sector, what things have happened, what changes have happened over the last few months, and as also directionally the relevance of the sector from a longer term point of view, and where it stands today
pharma head.
All the available options. Let me construct the whole sector for you all. For India, in my reading, this is one of the most globally competitive sectors out of India. We have heard so much about Make in India, so much about this happening, that happening in India. Primarily, this is one sector which dominates globally many markets, many developed countries in terms of presence there, in terms of selling in those markets. You'd be surprised to know that over 150 countries, our pharmaceutical products are available, and all of them are manufactured in India. Second, our brands, in 15 countries to 20 countries in the world, brands which are owned by Indian companies are being sold. It is like these guys are somehow multinational companies because they have presence in many, many markets in their own brand name. Now, all this was achieved in just the last 20 years, and more specifically the last 15, 18 years. And it is credit to this particular sector and the capability of the management here, which have managed to demonstrate and scale up the competencies and reach the next level. Just to highlight a couple of points in terms of capabilities, the largest market for pharmaceuticals for Indian companies is USA. Nearly 40% of all oral generics sold in the US are actually sold or manufactured in India and sold by Indian companies. Nearly 20% of all injectables sold in the generic space in the US market are actually manufactured and sold by Indian companies. This kind of large dominant share in such an evolved market like US is not there in any other sector, and hence this sector has demonstrated extreme capabilities. You would have realized that except for the last 3 years where this sector went through a difficult time, prior to that, this sector has been growing continuously at 15-18%. We think that point of 15 to 18% kind of growth for this sector in earnings has come back. And because of about 3 or 4 difficult years, generally the valuations of the sector, even after an improvement in prices in the last 1 or 2 months, has remained normal. So there is still a lot of runway for growth for these set of companies over the next several years. And earnings in this sector typically can double in a 4 to 5 year period. Other important aspects of this specific sector, which I would want to bring to your attention, is that when you look at simply deconstruct the sector into 3 or 4 important areas, the first one is, like I talked about, the US generic markets. So beyond doubt, we are one of the most competitive players in that space. We are having the second largest number of US FDA approved plants in the world. we have capabilities there which are second to none. So there, I've already mentioned about the scale there. The second area is the domestic pharmaceutical market, which, you know, all of the medicines which we all consume. The fact of the matter is the medicines which are sold in India are among the cheapest in the world in the form of branded generics. And what is important to note is this journey has just started, in the sense this journey can continue like this for a decade or two till you reach reasonable per capita consumption. Let me just highlight a few points relating to this domestic part of the business. Over the last 20 years, in terms of volume growth, this business would have grown between 9 to 12% compounding, right? And that itself, I think, still means that there is, despite that kind of growth, there is still a very, very long period of runway of growth available, primarily coming from the fact that we are still underpenetrated in terms of pharmaceutical diagnosis and consumption. Second important thing to note is that the unfortunate story of India's healthcare is that India has one of the worst disease profiles in the world. For example, if any place or a area which we compete directly with China, we would rank virtually very close to them in terms of the kind of disease profiles that country also runs. You know, we would have the second largest number of diabetes patients, the second largest number of cardiac vulnerable patients in India, a large size of thyroid population, and also we have significant issues relating to many other categories. So India is a country with developing country income and developed country diseases. And for whatever companies are providing products and brands to meet the requirement of this particular sector, the opportunity for them is there for the next few years, very, very comfortably. For example, in companies who build brands in domestic market in the pharma space, generally don't end up losing the brands over the years. In fact, they just remain as leaders, or they continue to provide good amount of cash flow. Most brands in the pharma side don't end up dying. And if you have a brand in a chronic space, you virtually continue to grow with limited effort and become larger over a period of time. I think, interestingly, just to state a few facts, given the size of the population at whatever 137 crores and the very low per capita income which we live by, I think this is a simple sector which is even more underpenetrated than the FMCG sector in India. And as diagnostics and all that is starting to improve in the last 5-10 years, we think, and the affordability also improving with generally rising per capita incomes, maybe this particular space can have a similar kind of volume growth which we have seen in the last 20 years to actually continue for the next 10-15 years as well. It is an underestimated fact that even if you look at the general population and all, you find that India has the largest number of young population in the world, which would logically mean that the need for healthcare or need for pharmaceuticals for them will be much lesser. But ironically, because of the large size of the country we are in, we also have a huge significant population over the age of 50 years, which would be equal to the population, whole of the population of the United States of America. So in terms of the size of the market, even though we have the youngest population structure in terms of demographics, we have a large runway of growth. And as more younger people enter into require treatments for all these diseases as we get along from 35, 40, 45, 50 years of age with better diagnosis, the opportunity for players who are dominating in this space is there for a long time to come. The third important area which I wanted to present to you is about the domestic healthcare services like diagnostics and hospitals. Diagnostics have become a fantastic business model with very strong cash flows, very good operating profitability, and very limited capital employed. And these businesses continue to grow well. They still are underpenetrated by a huge margin. And given that a large part of population is chronic in nature in India, you would realize that the need for continuous and repeated diagnostic testing to be able to calibrate dosages continues to happen for a long period of time. Also, more importantly, I think the pricing for diagnostics has come off materially in the last 7-10 years with the explosion in volume. And there are kind of cost very solid cost competitive players which are there in the market, providing for better wellness services and better diagnostic services, pre-treatment and such stuff. And all this is only supporting the overall sector for growth. We think that space is also very interesting, can show double-digit volume growth for a long period of time. The fourth area is the hospital space, which is very important. Again, India is significantly underinvested in hospitals. You can't imagine the level of underinvestment. Those who are living in Bombay will realize that what this pandemic has caused has laid bare that the availability of infrastructure in terms of healthcare across the country. We understand that the scale of the problem is large in India, but our response to addressing the healthcare requirements also has to be much, much bigger than what we have done till now. India generally spends about less than 2% of GDP on healthcare. Most of the money is spent by private sector within that. And the need to really expand it very significantly in the next 5-10 years is very, very important and very critical and urgent. And I think there is directionally a lot of effort that will happen post this development to push forward healthcare investments in India. The fifth segment of the market where India has demonstrated success is their capability in manufacturing API and globally competitively to the largest players in the world. In fact, nearly all of the top 15 multinational players globally outsource or at least source some manufacturing from India, and some established leaders have compounded wealth over a long period of time for investors. We think that journey is still long because people would want a diversified source. China does have significant advantages in raw materials, but I think when it comes to value-added manufacturing, legal and compliance and matters relating to ability of international companies to trust us on patent-related issues, we stand way higher than China. In fact, incidentally, you would be happy to note that this is possibly the only sector where you can truly claim that you have beaten China in most developed markets of the world, like in US and other places. So directionally, this sector is globally very, very competitive. And from an India point of view, we are best positioned there to grow. Yes, this sector had 3-4 very difficult years for 2-3 reasons, which you would have heard regularly in media. One was US FDA related issues on plants. We think this sector has done a lot of improvement in the last 3-4 years. We will see much better compliance track records as it goes along. Just want to highlight, if you have a US FDA audit problem, it is a very normal audit problem in 90% of the cases. A 483, which is a statement given by the US FDA, which states that these are the deficiencies in your plant, does not mean that you have poor quality. In fact, you would say in 99% of the observations which have happened in terms of US FDA, Indian companies have come out clean. Some companies have taken 6 months, some companies have taken 12 months, and a few companies have struggled to take about 2 or 3 years to get out of it. But 95% of these companies have been supplying to US even under those observations which are there, which only means that quality is not an issue. It is process improvements and effort which was needed. And a lot of large Indian companies have invested hundreds of $millions to get there. The last bit of piece which I just want to present is the new emerging opportunity in the pharma space, which is the specialty pharma. What is specialty pharma? In a way, you can say it is like the new chemical entities which people launch globally. Our pharma business over the last 20 years only still does largely generic work. It means they only work on products which have been owned and patented by international companies. And when they go off patent, Indian companies take over, do the manufacturing at the best cost and supply. In terms of original molecules to the market, over the last few years, some successes and some initial efforts have been made. That market is a $600 billion market or $700 billion market in the US. And the market where India is catering to is only $100 billion at this point of time. We believe it is a very difficult market to succeed, but some players are really taking very bold steps. So maybe the next decade, you may find some of these good successes coming out of the initiative on the specialty side. As of now, it is a very small component of the overall pharma market. In terms of valuation for the sector, if you look at and compare this sector with in terms of visibility of earnings under what is happening in COVID and the current situation, this sector's earnings will be the least impacted. You may have this April, May, June quarter have some impact on earnings because there have been so many doctor consultations, and there have been much lesser, I would say, patient visits to doctors, plus also because of the lockdown. But on a broad basis, earnings for this sector will come back very strongly. And after a weak one quarter, I think earnings for this sector will start accelerating because currency was also depreciated, supporting earnings of this sector, especially to the exporters, which are very, very large. And we think all these benefits will be visible over the next 1 to 3 years in terms of earnings of these companies. Ideally, with earnings of this sector likely to double over a 4-year or a 5-year period, depending on the impact of currency, we think the opportunity for investors for this sector is still very large, even despite the recent run-up which has happened. This sector, even the larger companies in this sector still have their share prices which are way below their longer-term highs. In fact, because they suffered on the US business side, the prices have been significantly impacted, and hence broader valuations are still 30-40% cheaper than other consumer or similar companies in the country across different sectors. So one, the advantages are very significant. Second, the opportunity is large. The companies which are there are some of the best management you can find in the country, and they have demonstrated it at a scale which is global in nature, and the potential for further growth in the sector remains pretty significant. With this, I will leave the floor open for any specific questions and any specific questions or any specific thoughts you would want me to discuss upon.
Thank you for taking your time out and sharing your views on the pharma sector with us. We really appreciate the inputs that you've shared with us. Sailesh, the first question that we have is that you've been managing 20,000 crores of assets across various categories. Can you share what your secret ingredient is, where you've almost, for your pharma fund, you've given 17 times returns in 16 years. So what's the secret of your success?
Things have been kind. The sector has done exceedingly well in across cycles. In fact, I recollect in a month we'll be completing 16 years for this particular product. And I recollect when this fund was introduced, this sector was completely out of favor. So maybe an early start, and the extraordinary businesses and companies in this space have enabled investor returns. And more importantly, I think some of these companies have become global champions in many areas. If you know, few companies, and India is actually seen globally as the pharmacy to the world, right? So it is kind of the scale and growth and the opportunity this sector has presented and still presents. In fact, in my reading, the pharma sector in India is still at very, very low levels of penetration in India itself. Because we were doing an analysis a couple of years back, where suppose in India there are about, in terms of data available, there are about 7 crore people who have chronic ailments like diabetes, and less than half of them take any treatment. Right. And even lesser number take treatment which is regular in nature. They take it for some period of time and give it away. So I think the journey to manage some of these extreme conditions which are unfortunately there in India is still a long way ahead, and businesses who are able to provide solutions to patients and improve their lifestyles have a long way to go. And that wonderful advantage of the sector has helped us.
Okay, Sailesh, do you think that this pandemic has further accelerated the growth of the pharma industry, or do you think that this pandemic has caused the revival of the pharma industry, or a bit of both?
The pandemic has brought to attention that this is a sector you cannot ignore. This was a sector which was losing, I would say, in India, if you remember, the only sector which is really talked about as a sector where large investments are needed is infra. After that, healthcare comes somewhere in the corner, right? The reality is whatever infrastructure you would need to create, you need to do it to be able to handle the healthcare requirements of such a large population over the next few years as well. So I think this has brought to light the urgency in handling issues which might be there related to healthcare infrastructure in India and fixing them up. I can understand India is not a rich country like a US and all in terms of per capita income, but in terms of capability of doctors, in terms of medical fraternity, India is way ahead or as good as the best you can get in the world. So I think there are solutions designed at India cost possible, and it does bring to light the most important factor that this sector deserves far greater investment, far greater attention than it has got. COVID only has made it more apparent, and I think it's a wake-up call for a lot of investments which are needed here.
Shailesh, within the pharma sector, what is the space that you're really bullish on? Is it the MNC pharma? Is it the domestic pharma? Is it the contract manufacturing pharma? Or like you mentioned, the diagnostic and hospital space? Where do you see good potential or good sustained growth, which could be probably higher than the average?
See, the sectors like, the domestic pharma space, right, are very, very attractive from a longer term point of view because, like I said, the significant underpenetration is there, significant scale and size of the market is there, and the prices at which pharmaceutical products are sold in India are very, very reasonable versus what is there globally. So as income levels rise, more new, in fact, this is one sector which gets more new patient population every year. And it is like more consumers, so it has the advantages of more consumers, better frequency to consume for maintenance of chronic conditions. And third is given the prices being low, the larger universe of consumers every year actually comes under compliance here. So what is important is this space has a long runway of growth, can possibly do double-digit compounding for a decade or so. So that's one plus. Within domestic companies, you have two sets of domestic businesses, or domestic pharma space. There are two sets of companies operating: the multinational companies, like you mentioned, and the Indian companies. See, both of them are so I would want to see them as companies having a large dominance of domestic business in their profits. So there are a lot of companies with 75, 80%, 90% of their profits coming from the domestic market. They just continue to compound. They are like consumer companies. They are like FMCG companies in every parameter: penetration, pricing, growth, and opportunity. So those companies have a long runway of compounding for many number of years, and that is one space which is one of the most attractive. Contract manufacturing space is again very attractive and lucrative, and what's happened globally and what's happened in China in the last couple of years presents an opportunity for Indian companies to do a lot of backward integration. In fact, the Indian pharma sector started as an API sector, if you recollect 20 years back.
Correct.
We were actually very good at API manufacturing and all that. In fact, every single large company has an API manufacturing infrastructure. And they were primarily API companies who in different phases went into formulations. So I think somewhere we will see far more backward integration there. Here the growth rates might be a little higher than domestic pharma, but that's also lucrative. Third, diagnostics, again, very underpenetrated. So these three areas appear very attractive within the universe which we have talked about.
So, Shailesh, if I see the market, right, and if I see the domestic market, the foreign MNC pharmas have done really well. Okay, I mean, they have done exceptionally well. And one foreign MNC that is there, a pharma that is there in your portfolio is Sanofi. Any particular reason if you can share with us, or do you feel that this whole domestic manufacturing space we've ceded to the foreign MNCs, or is it because the market feels that they will bring in better drugs now? So how does this space look like?
Yeah, see, contrary to that, actually, the Indian companies have done a way better job in the Indian market than pure multinational companies. In fact, the share of Indian companies in the overall market share is close to 70-75% in the domestic market. And this has been because there are a lot of Indian companies who have consolidated and grown very large and have gained market share. Multinational companies generally had been in a slow growth environment in the last few years because the regulations don't allow them to launch products from other portfolios, or they generally prefer to be more towards their select portfolios, whereas Indian companies choose to have every single therapeutic segment open for them and every single category they can launch. So that is one reason why Indian companies have actually demonstrated excellent performances in the domestic pharma space. Unfortunately for Indian companies, they also have a large US business in a difficult cycle in the last 3 years. Hence, the share price performances of Indian companies have been inferior to select multinational companies like you mentioned. But directionally, in terms of capabilities and what they have demonstrated and built, Indian companies have done equally better as multinational companies, or even better than them, in terms of fighting out for the growing pie in the Indian market.
You know, now Shailesh, this whole talk about this vaccine that is being, you know, being proposed to be developed by a lot of companies. The talk comes about manufacturing, right? And India does have a good manufacturing base as regards vaccine. What is your view about this Indian pharmaceutical manufacturing, especially with respect to vaccines?
See, India is one of the largest manufacturers of vaccine and a supplier to the large programs by international organizations like WHO. So India has significantly mastered the art of doing manufacturing at a very, very low cost. If you remember, if you recollect, recently Oxford has talked about its trials on COVID vaccine, and one of the Indian manufacturers have been given the license to manufacture it. The prices at which Indian companies are proposing to manufacture this is actually globally competitive. So I think India, from a manufacturing base for vaccines, has been very successful. In fact, in terms of price competitiveness and all that, we are participating in virtually a lot of global tenders in many, many categories. And hence the dominance of Indian companies in that area is there. I don't see a challenge in terms of vaccine as a space for India, especially on the manufacturing side. Doing research and developing their own vaccines, there are some companies attempting it and getting the right strains, but it's a process. You know, it's a significant effort and investment and time. And some companies have managed some success over a period of time. But I think in manufacturing, vaccine manufacturing, they're globally competitive. In fact, some of the largest guys own some vaccine plants in India from which they export it to their markets.
Thank you, Shailesh. Just one more question on the domestic space. How do you view these threats from China? Do you think that import from China in the bulk drug space will continue, will get reduced? Are we looking at backward integration? Or what's your thought process on the China side of the story as regards imports?
See, China is the lowest cost manufacturer for a lot of the basic chemicals and starting materials which go into manufacturing for bulk drugs, right? And in China will remain like that for a period of time. To shift this change or make this change, it takes about 5 to 10 years. So it's not an immediate change which can happen. But I think Indian companies would want to have dual sources, diversify their sources, and you will certainly see a lot more manufacturing in India happening. In fact, a lot of value addition happens in India also because of basic key starting materials. Then there are a lot of processes which happen before it becomes a final bulk drug. And in some cases, a lot of value addition is done by very good API manufacturers in India as well. So we think definitely there will be a thrust towards API manufacturing. There is a new policy which has been announced to facilitate investments there. And there is no reason why India shouldn't. In fact, India was one of the strongest players in this space 20 years back. In fact, all listed pharma companies today were actually API companies in 1995, 1990 and those days.
Okay, so just moving away now from the domestic space to the US market. What is your view on the generic space in the US as regards to growth in terms of volume, and how do you see pricing of generics happening there?
See, the generic space is, India has a very dominant position in the generic space. The kind of volumes we supply are huge, and hence our competitive advantage in terms of at what prices we can sell is significantly higher. In fact, China is virtually nowhere in the picture in that space, right? So our dominance is real and will be there for a long period of time. The challenge there is the generic markets, you actually sell them not as brand because they are generic products and you don't sell them as brands, right? And because of that reason, and for that very reason, the pricing pressures are intense. Buyers in the US market are consolidated in the sense 3-4 buyers account for most of the purchasing which happens. And given that India has built large capabilities and all that and capacities, there is always some pricing pressure every year. Unfortunately, in the last 3-4 years, the pricing pressure was in excess of 10 to 50, 10%, 9 to 10% a year, which is now coming down to about 3 to 5% a year, which is very, very normal for a such large scale manufacturing. That much of advantage in terms of new product introductions or that much of advantage in terms of volume we supply in terms of cost reduction will allow us to grow there. Will it remain as profitable as it was 4-5 years back? I don't think so. That is why a lot of Indian companies are wanting, or at least a few of them are wanting to move to specialty space where they can invest and create the next leg of growth. But with such dominant market shares and volumes, it is still a cash generating market for a lot of Indian companies. And they are also recalibrating their cost structures to be relevant at the prices they are selling. The pricing pressure in US, in fact, it is now visible in the current environment that many products have had shortages, with some of the Indian companies having capacities and capabilities to manufacture and supply in a short period of time are actually getting benefits out of it. But over long term, it will remain a competitive market with profitability which had hit a very low number in the last 1 or 2 years, improving from where we stand.
Thank you, Shailesh. Just, moving away from the US market, do you think that there are other markets, say like the European market or the Japanese market, that will also provide a good opportunity for Indian pharma companies, or is it right now only you feel the US?
See, other market, India is virtually sent in over 150 countries in the world.
Okay.
So they are there in every single possibly country in Europe. They are there in every single market which is of relevance. And the only problem is the European markets are generally much less profitable than the US markets. Hence, they don't become the talk of the town or the kind of discussion points in most cases. And they are pretty more competitive. They are generally a little bit of tender-driven markets in few countries like Germany and all. But the Indian companies have decent share there. Another interesting piece of global markets is there is a segment of emerging markets. Countries which are similar to India in terms of demographics or in terms of income levels. And they have 10, 20, 30 years of growth where there is the branded space can grow how it grows, like how it grows in India. For example, in India, it grows at about say 10, 15% a year. The similar kind of economics exist in many emerging markets which are there. It's actually Russia to some extent, Brazil, several other, all Philippines, all the Southeast Asian emerging markets which are there are all a part of this basket. The Eastern European markets also have similar branded generic space. So wherever there is a branded generic opportunity, Indian companies have their sales force there, have set up their own infrastructure and actually own brands there. In fact, Indian companies have presence in Romania, presence in so many countries which you would, and under their own brand names, which I think is a good achievement, and this can continue to grow for a long period of time. So that I think, and there the profitability is also very large. The African markets also, a lot of Indian companies have their own brands there, which they are continuing to grow. So it's truly a sector which is really global and multinational out of India. I don't think many sectors can command this kind of respect.
Truly, Shailesh, truly. Just moving away from this, one question for our investors: what investment style do you recommend, for your pharma fund? Should it be like a lump sum investment? Do you reckon it should be an SIP investment?
See, ideally, given that it is a sector fund, the first is the time frame which you're looking at. Ideally, a sector fund should have a time frame in excess of 3 to 5 years, given that it has its own peculiarities. Pharma is relatively less cyclical than others because of the recurring domestic business and the kind of dynamics I talked to you about of underpenetration and all that. But generally, first is the horizon will be at least 3 to 5 years. Second is in terms of allocation, if somebody is just not allocated to this sector, because this sector has not been a sector of choice for the last 3-4 years, right? I think investors should reach their minimum amount of allocation in a lump sum manner and gradually continue to add it up through SIPs. See, the question is coming primarily because you've had a very strong rally in the last couple of months, right? And directionally, I think this correction or this rally change has in a lot of cases brought back stock prices to pre-COVID levels in most cases, except where there have been specific developments. So it's not that this sector is significantly overvalued because of the rally which has happened. It is just normalized because this sector generally didn't have a large impact of COVID in terms of its earnings. So ideally, the first allocation should be done and then the remaining should actually be allocated over a SIP mode.
All right. Thank you, Shailesh. I'll now hand over the floor to Forum who can ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shailesh sir. Thank you so much, Vivek sir. Before with the question answers from our guests, so we are requesting everybody to put on your cameras and have a thumbs up if you like this session so that we can take a nice picture of you all. Thank you so much, everyone. The first question here, Shailesh sir, is coming from our viewers. Quite a few Indian pharma companies had data integrity issues. Your views on it? He's mute.
These were some of the companies in India did have data integrity issues. These were primarily coming from two sources. One was when you were trying to launch a product very quickly to the market. There were some procedures or processes which were not completely followed, either at due to the pressure or being first to the market. So these were issues which have, I think, adequately been addressed now by a lot of these companies, putting in measures like automatic data capture, complete trail of what data is being locked into the system, no editing possible in the system. So a lot of security measures and live measures have been put in to see that these kind of things don't repeat. If you look at it, when these issues happened, Indian companies did have significant losses in their profits also. And the impact cost is higher. So they have actually invested, each of them would have invested at least $15 to $20 million in putting in automatic data capture equipment and facilities, quality control facilities, so that they are in a way complying with what the regulator wants. So I think a lot of steps have gone through. You would see now whatever issues which come up or 483s which come up are generally very minor now. And also you must understand that India as a country has the largest number of US plants. So incidences of some challenges will also be there in a country which has some of the largest number of US plants, US FDA approved facilities, because the regular testing, and some in terms of product launches also globally, we are one of the largest. So you definitely have more challenges than normal because you have large market shares, and a lot of effort has gone in the last few years to correct that. So I think it's significantly a thing of the past. You may have some issues because these are regular audits which keep on happening for every product approval, for regular plant approvals also. But I think most of the serious issues, I think, seem to be behind us.
Thank you, sir. The next question coming. What is Granules involved in the pharma space, being medium-sized pharma company?
I will not be able to take you through specific companies for reasons of compliance, but I'll just segment it and see the two categories, like, the large businesses and mid-sized businesses, small-sized businesses, right? Typically, when you're investing in a pharma space, it's a function of what is the product portfolio that company can command, right? In larger companies, you have the diversity that, of markets, of product portfolios and all that. And hence the challenges generally are a little lesser than smaller companies in the pharma space. So it's not that smaller companies cannot excel, but we have seen the diversity of a product portfolio being a very important decision, and markets be very important decision in terms of investing. And those kinds of businesses generally end up with far greater longer term returns.
Salish, I think just also what probably he meant was that do you think the valuations in the mid caps pharma space are, much lower, or have they also caught up as much as the large space, or do you see a kind of a differential between the two?
Yeah. See, mid cap generally, even now, are trading at a lower valuation than the larger caps in the pharma space, because that was the ultimate, that was the clear reason why we have invested significantly in the larger caps in the last 2-3 years. Because if there is a sector rebound, our belief was the largest of the companies will really get the first benefit of it. Now that that first leg of benefit is starting to get visible, the possibility of some companies in the mid-cap space also getting a re-rating and getting right valuations does exist. But please understand, unlike a sector like cement or a monolith sector, in pharma, mid-cap sector would generally mean lesser product portfolio, lesser product, lesser diversity in terms of markets, and hence multiple re-ratings cannot be way higher unless the growth rates are way different from the market. So this is a slightly different sector than just comparing large caps and mid caps in this category, because virtually every single company in this particular space is actually different. Unlike in a cement or all, where you find most businesses having somewhat similar characteristics and operating matrices.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question coming in is, will the government shift its focus towards spending bigger on healthcare sector over the next decade post-COVID?
It is a high probability case, primarily because of the fact that the kind of crisis we have seen is very severe. Second is, if you recollect, over the last 2 years, the government has already been making many initiatives on these lines. First and foremost, the initiative was on trying to do a program of insurance, medical insurance across the country, the Ayushman Bharat program, to get the bottom 50 crore people in India covered under some kind of an insurance program, which they started about a year or two back. Our point is that the need for it is clearly there. The urgency has been brought forward by COVID, and most certainly, I think this sector will see a large amount of government investments in healthcare infrastructure over the next few years.
FDA still impact the earnings and the investor sentiment of the pharma sector?
We'll have to repeat your question.
Just a moment. US FDA still impact the earnings and the investor sentiments of the pharma sector?
It does have a play, because it's the most highlighted part of the whole thing. And you definitely have, unless the observations are serious. I'll just take you through this journey a little bit. When you first have a US FDA observation, the initial observations sometimes can be very normal, and they can be quickly be resolved in a 15-20 day period or a 30-day period, right? The second set of observations, if they are not resolvable in a short period of time, the US FDA allows it to be resolved in a little bit of a longer period by taking help of consultants and all. The third is, once they are not resolving in this two-step manner, it then goes into a warning letter kind of a situation, right? So till it reaches a warning letter kind of a situation, the existing plants and all that keep getting approval. So there is no problem till that point of time. Only in cases where it goes to a warning letter, and then in the worst case scenario might lead to, after a year or so, into a import alert situation. That is just less than maybe 1% of the total approvals which are happening. So in 90% of the cases, or 80 to 90% of these cases, most of these observations are very normal. And they may impact temporarily, but they could well be opportunities in those companies.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is, what weightage you think pharma would have 5 years from now in Nifty, similar to financial sector has today? Also, what was this weightage at the peak of the pharma cycle?
Yeah. So in 2007 and 8, when pharma was not in favor, the weight was about 3%. That's what I recollect. And at the peak, at maybe in 2015, I think the weight was as high as 13 to 14%. Given that the size of the sector is growing, and second, the earning outlook remains reasonable, and maybe a relative outperformance of the sector is possible versus some sectors in the space. The share of pharma sector, which is about 3.5%, 4% in Nifty, should actually start getting higher from here. Very difficult to say that whether it will go up to a very high level, but I think it has reached to double-digit levels also over a period of time. But directionally, this sector is becoming larger and more relevant, and will certainly see more representations in the larger companies in India as we get along.
Thank you so much, sir. Just a quick note to our viewers, Sailesh sir will not be taking any stock questions, so I request you all to just ask normal other questions that are there. Over Sailesh sir, the next question coming in is, we had a good run up in the last 6 months. What can expect in the next 3 to 5 years in the pharma fund?
Run-up has happened only in a 2-3 month period post the COVID, because in the initial fall in March, the pharma sector also fell a bit, and it started to recover given that this sector was generally less impacted by the whole development. If you look at broader valuations, you will find that over the next, say, 3 to 5 years, when you have earnings of this sector likely to possibly double in a 4-year, 5-year period, based on consensus numbers, you will actually see that if there is, if that kind of a visibility exists, right, the possibility of investors getting reasonable returns also exists in this particular sector. The recent rally, I think, is just some part of a correction of valuations which has happened because of because this sector was under pressure in the last 2-3 years. So I think that pressure has got a little bit relaxed, and you've seen valuations improving from where they stand.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question here coming in is, if I put, say, ₹100 in a large cap mutual fund, how much I should allocate to this sector specific fund?
See, typically in a typical sector allocation should generally be about maybe it depends on the risk profile of the investor generally, but we have seen investors in the range of maybe 15 to 20% of total allocations to sector funds. Within that, given that pharma is a more secular kind of a sector relative to other deep cyclical sectors, which have a larger weight in the indices as well, I think pharma allocations can be a meaningful part of the sector allocation. Maybe half of anybody's sector allocation can actually come into the pharma sector space, especially from a 3 to 5 year horizon.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, how do you think private hospitals will take to return to normal occupancy levels?
Unfortunately, this is one sector which has seen significant challenges in the last 2 or 3 months, and normal elective procedures have actually been deferred. I think there is a lot of pent-up demand there, effectively, in terms of procedures which have been postponed or which are postponable. We have seen a very sharp surge in demand post opening up in other countries where these elective procedures which were deferred have started to come back strongly. So I think as this fear of, as we are able to manage through this current problems in the next 1 or 2 months, you will find, say, increased activity level for hospitals starting off and people going in for elective procedures, which will bring back this sector to reasonable health. So as soon as we see this some stability and comfort in terms of the handling of this COVID issue, I think you will see this sector bouncing back pretty fast.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question here is, can you compare the prospects of export-oriented companies versus domestic-oriented companies over the next year or two?
See, the domestic businesses have a secular story. So they continue to grow at 8, 10, 15%, depending on the year, depending on price controls, depending on the local conditions at that point of time. International markets, especially US, were having a bad time for the last 3-4 years. But I now think they also have a potential to come back to single-digit growth, as is also seen in some of the results which have been reported, have shown some growth. And it depends internationally primarily on the portfolio mix of companies. If they have significant price erosion in certain markets, you have some challenges. But on an average, the overall international portfolio of companies will grow in line with Indian portfolio or the domestic businesses. So I think both of them should trend at early double digits in terms of broader growth.
Thank you so much, sir. We've received an overwhelming response and we've tried as much as possible to cater to our questions. We thank you for joining us, sir, today and giving us your valuable time. We are attaching a feedback form in the chat room over here. Request you all to give us your valuable feedbacks. Here at GPL Capital will come up with more such sessions related to different subjects. Feedback.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sailesh.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.